Hey guys, and welcome back to the PurpleFox channel. Here are today's shoutouts. If you'd like a shoutout, just be sure to comment hashtag PurpleFoxchannel and turn on all your notifications, and you could be randomly selected to get a shoutout. So without further ado, let's just get on into this video. So you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. Today I'm going to be doing the 6 Artstyles challenge. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically where you draw one thing in your style and then draw that exact same thing but in 5 other art styles, probably like mainstream or something like that. So I started off with this character. I want to make her an OC because I've just kind of fallen in love with her design. Maybe it's because I drew her like 6 different times. Maybe just because the design's really good. Let's hope it's the second one. So I need name suggestions. So put name suggestions down in the comments below. So like I said, I started off with her and I drew her in my own art style, and I like the color combos I went with here. I really like also the difference in kind of texture I went for. I went for like a really baggy kind of sweatshirt, but then really tight-fitting crop top. And the jeans I'm not exactly sure yet, just because I haven't really figured that out, but I'm still really liking this design. This first time took the longest because, you know, it's the first time I did it and I wasn't really familiar with the colors, so I get faster and faster. And we're soon going to jump to a colored version because I colored it off camera just to make sure I liked the colors. So now that I had like a finished kind of reference for me to use for all the other styles, it's time to go for the first mainstream art style, which I chose was Powerpuff Girls, just because I think it's a pretty iconic art style. You know, you got the big head and the big eyes and just the kind of limbs that are very like bendable, if that makes sense, and very short. I just think I tried to pick 5 iconic art styles that just kind of popped into my head when I thought of art styles, and this was one of them. I definitely butchered this one just because the eye spacing was way too far apart, so it kind of looks creepy and kind of like a doll, if I have to say, but I still think it kind of looks like a Powerpuff Girl, kind of, maybe, sort of. I also had to pay attention not only to like the eyes in the art style, but also to shading. So in my art style, I'd say like on a scale of 1 to 10 on shading, I'm pretty much like a 5-ish. I definitely do shading, but I'm not as extreme as some people. Powerpuff Girls didn't have very much shading, so it was pretty simple. It was mainly just like flat washes of color, which I think suits their style really well. Also, I tried to add yellow borders where, like for each different art style, but differently, and I think it made my page really fun. And then the next art style I am doing is Adventure Time. Adventure Time I just enjoyed just because of the small eyes, but also how the art style is so developed and yet so simple. Like the limbs are very like floppy, if that makes sense. They're not very anatomically correct, but I still think it really suits their art style. And for shading wise, they kind of had a little bit of shading, but not too much. It was more like blush in like little circles rather than naturally. I think this challenge was really helpful just for me to analyze other art styles and try to replicate it and see that like the small details actually really matter. So like here, there's not very much shading, but the little like blush kind of things do make it very important. And for the hair, I tried to make it big and fluffy, but then the body much smaller compared to the head. A lot of these cartoony art styles do that, and I think my art style also does it, but I just kind of like that, just think it looks really cute. And for the way I added the yellow spots this time, I tried to make them in like a cow print kind of design just because I thought it would really suit it, and I liked it. I kind of had no idea what I was going to go off of for this next art style, so I was just thinking, okay, iconic art styles, and then just melondoodle kind of came into my head just because that art style is literal goals, like so developed, so pretty, and you can just look at a piece and definitely tell, like, yeah, Sarah made this for sure, which is why I wanted to try and replicate it. Did not work. It was so bad. Oh my god, I feel so bad trying to do this. I'm so sorry, Sarah, but this art style looks nothing like melondoodles. What made it even harder is the fact that sometimes Sarah's art style is lineless, and I really like that effect, so I tried to do it, but I kind of forgot that I really suck at lineless. So what I did was I colored my sketch with a colored pencil so that the markers would have a more skin tone-y effect, and then we had to go really heavy with the blush. Sarah's art style is so pretty in that sense, like all the shading looks so defined and yet goes so well with the piece. I kind of didn't do that because it was really hard. Another defining feature about Sarah's art style is the way she draws eyes, which is just so gorgeous. It's like really lifelike but also really cartoony, and it's just so pretty. This is just me complimenting her art style and failing to draw it. But yeah, so I did the eyes last because I knew I'd mess them up. Also, in the clothing wrinkles, the way her art style is, it's like very defined, and I don't normally do that, so it was kind of hard for me to replicate it, but since the drawing was kind of small, you can't really notice it. I will say that although this thing looks really bad lineless, I want to try more lineless stuff just because it looks a lot more natural, and it was really fun to use colored pencils and just like incorporating it into my art, because I've kind of stopped doing that, if I'm honest, and I want to continue. Also, her art style is really good with using highlights, so I had to add a lot of white gel pen highlights. And the next art style that we are doing is Pokemon. I, again, think this art style is iconic, kind of for a different reason though. It's a little bit on the simpler side, like simpler as in less defined, and more of just an anime-esque art style, but what I really like about this specific style is the cell shading. The difference between cell shading and soft shading is like, soft shading is when you blend out the like shading color and the skin color, while cell shading is where it's hard defined lines, and that can work well for a lot of styles, and that's why I think Pokemon's is really well done because of that. Also, the eyes, I haven't really drawn any anime eyes yet, so I kind of had to include that. But something that made it easier was the fact that Pokemon's art style is a lot more anatomically correct to kind of mine, if that makes any sense, because my style is kind of anime-y and the features are pretty much the same, so anatomy-wise it wasn't too bad, but the shading was really hard for me to do because I had to find a color that was different enough to use for shading, but not too different that it would look really like weird and contrasty. I love incorporating cell shading in my digital pieces, but I have yet to try it in my own style in traditional art, but I kind of want to just because I like a good mix of cell shading and soft shading. I kind of got used to my color scheme after a while, so I just kind of had all my colors on hand, but the Pokemon one really messed me up because I needed colors that were different enough, like I said, to use as shading, so I had to pick a lot more colors for this one. I was really happy with the end result of this one though, just because I kind of think it looks like the Pokemon art style, if that makes sense. I just think since it's really similar to mine, it was not that hard to replicate. And probably the weirdest thing for me was to color in the eyes, because I always color in the eyes black, but people have different eye colors and Pokemon does that. And I added some swirly bits around for my little yellow border. And for my last art style, I picked Animal Crossing New Horizons because I like the way their style has evolved throughout each issue of the Animal Crossing series. I think the core elements, like the shapes and shape language, has stayed the same, but I like how just kind of the quality has become better and better. If you don't know already, I am obsessed with Animal Crossing, and my video last Saturday was also about Animal Crossing, but we're going to ignore that and kind of continue on. I wanted to do a style with a little bit more shape language involved, just because I think shape language and character design is really important, and I think Animal Crossing does a good job of it. Like, the body is mainly made up of circles and really round shapes, and sometimes squares, and then sharper features are triangles, and I think it just works really well for their style. I also like how it's another cartoon style, so the head can be really big compared to the body. I thought that these set of eyes and this nose would suit this character. Again, I need name suggestions. Please put them down in the comments below. And I just picked those just because I thought it kind of suited her. After that, I added the yellow bits, and I was done with my entire 6 art style challenge. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!